everyone. Welcome and thank you to the September 16th, 2020 Oceanside Mayoral Candidate Forum. I'm Elizabeth Brady with the League of Women Voters of North County, San Diego. The League of Women Voters is celebrating our 100th anniversary this year. We were formed shortly after the passage of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Our purpose today is very much the same as it was 100 years ago. That is to encourage informed and active participation in government. As the educational arm of the League, we do not endorse or oppose any candidates or political parties. Our co-sponsors for this forum are the Oceanside Coastal Neighborhood Association. We're grateful for their years of dedication in bringing candidate forums to you. The Oceanside Coastal Neighborhood Association, OCNA, has been a neighborhood association for 13 years. They are dedicated to bringing neighbors together to ensure a vital, sustainable neighborhood that protects the quality of life for all citizens in the Oceanside coastal area. This candidates forum is part of that mission. Let me tell you a little bit about the format tonight, which you candidates have agreed to in advance. Obviously, we're recording this forum and it's going to be posted on the YouTube channel for the League of Women Voters, North County, San Diego. OCNA is also going to post it on their website, which is ocna101.org. Nancy Telford from the League is our media lead tonight. She's muted the microphones of everyone except for the candidates and the moderator. Likewise, Nancy has disabled the chat and question functions in Zoom. The questions for this forum have been solicited in advance from the community. Two League members, Robert Lorenzen and Kathy Green, have screened the questions to avoid duplicates, to strike anything that's inappropriate or not relevant to this election, and trying to assure that the topics with the most interest get covered. Thank you to the community. There was a wonderful series of questions submitted. In fact, there's so many that I think it's going to take about 7 hours to get through. So just hang with us tonight. I'm kidding, don't panic.
7 hours.
I wish we had 7 hours for all these great questions. We only have 90 minutes in the forum tonight. We're going to do our best to cover as many of those questions as we can. Now, the ground rules. There's actually 12 candidates running for the mayor of Oceanside, which is a 4-year term. We do not have all those candidates present with us tonight. We actually have 7 with us. The speaking order has been randomly assigned. Each candidate is going to have 30 seconds for an opening introduction statement. We're then going to move into the questions where you're going to have 1 minute to respond. I also reserve the right to do a lightning round, which will be yes or no, but I'll warn you in advance before I do that. Brittany Engel is with us. She's with the League of Women Voters. She's our intern, all-around awesome person. She's our timekeeper this evening. So she's going to help keep us on track. I'm going to turn it over to Brittany so she can demonstrate and explain to you what she's going to do.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's pretty simple. I only have 2 signs. One of them says 30 seconds and the other one says stop. The time that you're allotted for each of the questions depends on what Elizabeth said, but yeah, I'll just be using these 2 signs. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you so much for that. Because we have a large pool of candidates, we use a slightly different forum for what we call large pools. That means that I'm going to pose a question and ask some of you to answer it. I'm going to go to another question and ask another set of candidates to answer it. But we'll be rotating through the pattern, so you're going to have to pay attention to every question that gets asked. Because everyone isn't going to be asked every question, we're extending the time of the final comments. When you do your wrap up, you'll be allowed 90 seconds so that you can add commentary to any question you really wish had come your way but wasn't asked directly to you. Now it's time for the candidates to introduce themselves. Remember, you have 30 seconds. I'll let you know when it's your turn. We'll start with candidate Marchi.
Thank you for having us here. My name is Fabio Marchi. I'm an engineer, a contractor, a real estate broker in California. I was born in Argentina under critical times during dictatorship, so I know very well what is abuse of power. My goals are flourishing the economy in Oceanside, be tough on crime, but also make sure the city is accountable for that. As an engineer, I think we need to rebuild the infrastructure. And thank you so much.
Thank you for honoring that sign. When it comes up, I do ask that you just finish the sentence you're on, so that was perfect. Candidate Feller.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. Oceanside's been my home for the last 33 years. I've raised a family here. I'm very interested in how your and my family are able to go about growing old in Oceanside. This is a city that I know well. I know the streets. I know where people live. I understand the needs, and I appreciate the time that I have had here, and I hope to have a few more years as your mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Rodriguez. Mute, please.
Please unmute.
How embarrassing. Okay, there we go. Christopher Rodriguez. I am a veteran farmer and small business owner. The 5 initiatives I am pushing forward as your next mayor are clean and safe neighborhoods, parks, and beaches, a swift end to illegal homeless encampments, balanced budgets and rainy day reserves, a thriving economy with higher paying local jobs, and we need to fix our aging roads and relieve traffic congestion. Thank you.
Candidate Garcia.
Hi, thank you for having me and happy 100th birthday. My name is Fernando Garcia. I am a retired Marine. I volunteer 100% of my time helping my community here in Arrowwood and Morro Hills. And I look forward to serving as your next mayor to fix a lot of the issues going on in our city with transparency. As I have no ties to developers, special interests, or big donors. Thank you.
Candidate Howard.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Howard. I'm a candidate for Oceanside Mayor. I'm an over 30-year resident of Oceanside. I live in Oceanside. I've worked close to Oceanside. I've volunteered, worshiped, and actually invested in Oceanside. I'm running as someone who wants to actually bring the pieces of Oceanside together. We have a lot of people with a lot of qualifications, but one of the things we need to do is to actually work better together. Rob Howard.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez.
Hi, I'm Councilmember Esther Sanchez, running to be the next mayor of Oceanside. Born in Oceanside, part of a 5-generation Oceanside family, I've been committed to public service, first as a deputy public defender, then as a council member. I have led on public safety, including community policing, affordable housing, economic development, jobs, the environment, and quality of life issues. With a planning and legal background and years of experience as mayor, I will lead Oceanside into its economically and environmentally sustainable future. Our time is now. Thank you.
Candidate Chavez.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this and recognize you for your birthday. So happy birthday. You don't look a day over 99. You know, my name's Rocky Chavez. I've been a council member. I've been a secretary of Veteran Affairs for the state. I've been a state assembly member for North County, and I'm a retired Marine colonel. And I'm going to focus on small business in the COVID, education, and energy. And I'd ask for your support because those are big issues. And you need somebody with a history of getting things done and an understanding of the national, state, and local issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those introductions. Now let's dive into these questions. And there's no point in starting with an easy one. So the first question is going to 4 candidates, and it reads, will you commit to divesting or reallocating the proposed FY 2020-2021 $63 million Oceanside Police Department budget, nearly 40% of the $157.7 million city budget, and invest more in neighborhood services, youth programs, drug, alcohol, mental health programs, and homeless outreach? Can we please have a response from candidate Marchi?
You hit the nail. I'm very good with numbers. I'm an engineer. So $150 million for the city of Oceanside. And we got $60 million for the police department, plus $30 million for the fire department. 6 and 3 is 9. So $90 million that are allocated to police and fire. Well, let me ask 2 questions. Are we a crimeless city? Or we have less fires or any accidents or emergency responders, the qualification at the grade to the city is a 00. It's a disaster. So as a mayor, I will change completely the rules that we are allocating budget, because we're working in the same way from 100 years ago. We're just narrow-minded and focused in just one item. And I want to be also be tough on crime, because we need to make sure crime is completely disappearing from Oceanside. There are gangs activities, there are drug activities, and police officers, they are very busy doing paperwork.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Feller.
Unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry. Thank you. I will not defund the police department. This is a critical time. Everybody has to be served by public safety, and public safety is the most important thing for the citizens of Oceanside. We've spent a lot of time and effort with our community and neighborhood policing. The effort is well known just because we had such successful protests compared to many other cities. The beginning of this COVID has changed everything for everybody. And I think that we have to think how we do some things, but we don't have to defund the police department.
Thank you. Candidate Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. So you had a two-part question. One was, should we defund the cops and give it over to one side? And the list on the other side sounded great. And I think it's not one or the other. I think when it comes to balancing a budget and looking at our public safety needs, we adjust according to local crime, according to calls for service, and we build out based on those resources. And I also think that we have a huge need to increase our budget on the side of our parks and recreation, on the side of our youth programs. But to phrase a question of take from one to give to the other, I think is just not productive, and it's not something that I support. But again, I do support more on one side and balance on the other. Thank you.
Candidate Garcia.
Hi. On this particular question, there's also the thing about the 63 million of the budget. I think some of it was allocated by Measure X. I will look into using that money and reallocating some of that into more homeless outreach teams, removing the police officers and exchanging them for social workers, case workers, even a nurse practitioner and a mental health provider. That's how I will look into reallocating some of those funds into that. Not entirely, not reducing the budget, but maybe putting an effort or focusing a lot of that money where money could be needed the most, especially to solve the homeless issue here in Oceanside.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next question. What will you do to help ensure more sand is on the beaches, especially south of Tyson Street? Let's have our first response from candidate Howard.
The issue around the sand is interesting in that it took me some time to really understand how the jetties work. Our sand is actually, they're causing the in and outflow of the water. So we need to make sure that the Army Corps of Engineers, that we're working with them and really trying to figure out how to get more funding so that we can actually make sure that we get the sand. Right now, we're focused on the beach that's downtown. So we need to work on the dredging, make sure that the dredging is good and that we have appropriate situations for that. So I think as far as it working with the city and the military and the Army Corps of Engineers to ensure that we have it set so that you get the sand on the south piece. It won't be just where it would automatically be there. It's got to be an engineering operation to ensure that the sand is down that far.
Candidate Sanchez.
Thank you for the question. what we can do is do more dredging, and I think that's the hardest thing that we have to do. Is we do rely on the annual dredging by the Army Corps because of the Navy's work on their jetty, and we know that southern cities like Carlsbad will not stand for anything, and neither with the Coastal Commission in terms of hard structures. But what we can do is do something like what Encinitas has done with the livable seacoast, and also like the Coastal Commission has suggested is do kelp beds. But what we really need to do also is study the issue with respect to things that can possibly be able to be done versus kind of impossible things. We don't need to waste time or money. We need to do things that we can. Thank you.
Candidate Chavez.
Yes, this is a great question and something that's been around for quite some time. Yes, I definitely support it, but I would go with the issue of two major elements. One is the science, and the science has to do, as you know, the sand in California goes from north to south. And because of the way the harbor is in the Camp Pendleton Harbor, the sand is dropping up in Camp Pendleton. You just have to go to Camp Pendleton and it's either 200-yard beaches of sand, and that's the sand that was supposed to be coming down south. So this has to be, second part is a relationship with the Department of Defense. And that's where I think I'm uniquely situated, because as the chairman of the Governor's Military Council and I'm the executive member of the Associated Defense Communities, which out of DC, where we align programs on bases to support your communities. I'm in both those areas, so I am uniquely situated to deal with the sand if I was lucky enough to be the mayor of Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you for those responses. Let's go on to another question. Oceanside recently started the major effort to update its general plan. What do you see as the key problems this update should address? We'll start with candidate Feller.
Thank you. The critical problem is moving people around. So that would be transportation. We need to have our roads open in every corner of our city. We need to have the housing that we come across in the future has to be built around the transit type corridors. And we have 5,400 homes that we need to build in the next 10 years. This city has great potential. The plan is outdated. And I think the main thing is the links for our transportation and the housing that's needed.
Candidate Rodriguez.
Great question. Our general plan is over 35 years old, and that puts our city in a awkward predicament, because when we are processing developer applications and we are currently in the planning stages for current development, everything from our circulation element, all the way through to the economic side of it, it is all out of place. It is all out of whack. So it is such a blessing that we're moving through this, and the council and the mayor that gets elected in 2020 and moves it forward. It is not going to be an easy 4 years as we process that. We're going to need a lot of public feedback, but there's a lot of making up to do, a lot of creativity, and we need individuals that can work together. I'm most excited about the circulation element and how we plot the developments along the major corridors near transportation and how that's all going to unfold. And I'm really excited for the future of Oceanside, the next decade.
Thank you so
having
much.
some great developments. Thank you.
Candidate Garcia.
Hi. To me, it relies on two things. One is synchronizing mass transit. And what I mean by that is incorporating into the general plan mass transit routes and times to allow easy people to move from A to B efficiently. And I say in mass quantities. Now, we don't have enough rail systems to move people north and south besides the coaster. We do have one for east to west, but the lines that go across between the rail system is not enough to move enough people. And the other one is we need to look at the general plan to pause development for now until we study the traffic patterns and circulation around the city. Because right now, traffic is bad. And if we add those 5,400 additional homes that we need, it's going to get even worse.
Candidate Howard.
Yes, one of the things I think we really should be focused on is understanding how difficult the task is, number one. Number two, if we look now at COVID, people are out of their cars because of COVID. They're working from home. So we know we need to figure out in our planning how to build those over 5,000 homes. But we should do it in communities that are walkable, we have mass transit, and that we actually have a plan that allows us to keep because we can keep the green spaces. We're going to need higher density small unit homes, which will allow middle class workers in the city and others to actually afford a home, get into the market. So we can address it, but the toughest thing is to recognize that we're going to need people in the mayor spot and on the council that are willing to work together, because it hasn't been done since '86 because it's hard. And so a willingness to work on the general plan, focus on our housing, transportation, which will allow the other pieces to work together. We bring business together and have spots for it. And that's the planning that's going to need to be done going forward.
Candidate Marchi.
Yes, can you repeat the question for me, please?
Of course I can. Oceanside recently started the major effort to update its general plan. What do you see as the key problems this update should address?
Oh my God. The general plan is totally obsolete. Like I said, I'm an engineer. My hobby is when you build a house, you need to figure it out how to level the ground, put the footings, the rebars. Unfortunately, in the current council members, there are not any engineers and they don't have any knowledge about construction. And I received a letter today from the city manager saying that it's a combination between the councils and the manager running the city. Well, let me tell you, it's a disaster, the city, because in an event of a fire, we will all die trapped. There's not a way out. There is not a way out. I-5 is the only source to get out, 76 and 78. Nothing else. There's no alternative roads to get out. And in order to fulfill the housing, what we need to do is expedite permits, because the way that the permits are right now done, they got so much red tape. They're so expensive. Just to put a water meter of 1 inch costs $45,000. We need to change completely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to a new question. If you're currently in office, can you tell us what you specifically have done to address the homelessness situation in Oceanside? If not currently in office, what is your plan to solve a problem that has gone on for years? We'll start with candidate Sanchez.
Thank you very much. We started initially with the HOT team. I think we were the first ones in the region to do that. And it's worked out really well to have a social worker. And as the previous city manager indicated to me, it was like pulling teeth to get that from the county. The other thing what I've been doing is pushing for getting shelters. We actually have no shelters in Oceanside. We need to have them. We need to have day centers. We have to have more affordable housing. We have to have the whole gamut, because we need to, and we've agreed to shelter at least half of our unsheltered within 2 years with our regional homeless task force. So we're finally getting to do that. I'm really, very sad and very disappointed that we took so long to get going on that. But this is something that's of a very, very high priority. Thank you.
Candidate Chavez.
Well, I'm going to take a little personal privilege on this. So I'm not a council member now. I was a council member. And the homelessness is one of the things that I worked on heavily when I was first elected in 2002 to 2009. I was the leader who put together the homeless task force in North County. I remember the first meeting we had, Margie Pierce and I went out there. I said, Margie, what's going to happen to the meeting in Escondido? She said, nothing. We talk about it and do nothing. Well, when we finished, we established a network throughout North County with Escondido, Encinitas, Carlsbad, St. Vista, Oceanside, where everybody worked together and we started tracking it. We partnered with Cal State San Marcos and asked them bring in their science and how we could do it. We brought in the county because, as you know, the county deals with medical health and they have different services for this. In summation, the solution for homelessness is a leader who can reach across and bring all the elements from education to healthcare to solve the problem.
Thank you. Candidate Feller.
Thank you. The issue of homelessness is more prevalent now than it has ever been. Having crawled through the trees and weeds in the riverbed early on in my career on the council, it really taught me that there are people that need help and we need to help them. People who don't want help and they don't want us in their life at all. So I think the difference that can be made is by putting the problem in the hands of the people that can actually do it. With San Diego Rescue Mission and also the Bread of Life, Brother Benno's, they can help treat the need for these homeless people. We were just woefully short on people. The hot teams are making a big difference, and they know everybody that they're actually.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any flags or stop signs.
Can you
so
see the timer?
I can't see anybody but you.
So you have your screen adjusted so that you can only probably see the speaker's view. If you change it to the gallery view, you'll be able to see our timer this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's go on to a new question. Do you support the San Diego County Water Authority's plan for a regional conveyance system? That's the RCS. It's costing more than $6 million to dig, tunnel, and pump over 100 miles through our state parks, prized wetlands, national forest, and active earthquake fault lines. Or Phase B, to study this issue at a cost of $1.3 million. That was a lot, so if you need me to recap, let me know. The question will go to candidate Rodriguez first.
Water has been a scarce need for our county and our region, and under the development of the San Diego Water Authority, including a federal establishment like Camp Pendleton, they have been at the front of the tip of the spear as far as innovation, ideas, and making it happen when it comes to ensuring that locally we have the water resources we need. I'm blessed to have graduated from the Water Authority Academy. I learned a lot. And so the numbers you went over, I don't know enough about this project to say, yes, we should do this. Yeah, we should do that. I would definitely need more time to study it and get back to voters. So I'll just leave my answer at that. Thank you.
Candidate Garcia.
Yeah, on the water issue, I've spoken a couple of times to, I talked to Tasha Borna-Horvath and I talked to Mike Levin, who are representatives here a couple of months ago during the town hall meetings, to ask them the same question about what is the long-term situation with the water. And me being here in my neighborhood, we're working with city council trying to get the reclaimed water issue too. So water is very important. As far as the one that you say, I wouldn't go for it right away. I want to look into other projects like the desalination plant. We already get some of the water from the desalination plant. I want to go more into that. We have a big pond of water right there called the Pacific Ocean that we can, harvest and use for our city when required. And I think at a lot less cost than what is being offered to the city. So I will look into that first.
Thank you, Candidate Howard.
Yes, you don't just jump in without the level of science you need to know how it's going to work from a regional perspective. You need to do that evaluation, and we need to look at our water situation in Oceanside, our reclaimed water, and how we're processing water in Oceanside. We've got 30% where we're actually using the reclaimed water. So you study it, you verify it, but then you make sure something like water, that you're working regionally and you're bringing people together, because the different water authorities overlap the different jurisdictions. So study it first. And I'm not always the one to say, let's spend a whole lot of time studying things, because a lot of times we have the answers. But when you're talking about a major investment, you need to know that the money is being spent in the right place at the right time.
Thank you. We had many, many questions on police and policing issues in Oceanside. So given the interest in this, I'm going to ask that all candidates respond to this question. Will you support an independent community oversight board with investigatory, subpoena, and audit powers in Oceanside? We'll start with candidate Sanchez.
Thank you for the question. I have committed to looking into creating an oversight committee. As to what it would look like, I feel that that would have to be something that would be decided by community-based effort, so input from the community. We have, obviously, we have people that are very, very concerned about systemic racism. Where we are right now is definitely a lot better than 20 years ago, because we worked so hard on community policing and changing the diversity of our police department. It now almost reflects the diversity of our community. So as to that, yes, I think the rest of it needs to be done. You know, I'm a big believer in due process and having everybody at the table. So that's what I would consider doing. Thank you.
Candidate Rodriguez.
Thank you. So currently we have a police and fire commission. One of their job descriptions is local crime and reporting on local crime, and working and bridging with the public safety sector of Oceanside and the community. I was formerly the liaison on that commission, and we would discuss neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs with high crime rate and different options that the police department and the community can take to relieve residents of those crimes. So I think a first step, I'm all for looking to improve, looking to make things better, looking for the community to trust us more. So I think as a first step, we can begin that conversation through that commission, and then something that can come before council, and then we go from there. Just going overboard one direction, I don't think is very wise. Thank you.
Candidate Chavez.
Yes, I'm really glad you brought this up, because there's so much misinformation on this topic. There's probably no element of the city that shouldn't be looked at more closely than the police. And that's why I would support an independent element to do that. But I don't want to set up people with expectations. You know, cities have certain powers within them, just like counties do and states. Subpoena power is something defined that comes from courts, and it has to be a member of the court system to do a subpoena. And so we don't have that within our authority, which doesn't mean that we can't hold police departments accountable, but it needs to be done in a way that benefits everybody within the city and hold a high degree of professionalism, which I believe we have with our police department. Thank you.
Candidate Garcia.
Yes, I believe in accountability. I believe in holding people accountable for their respective areas and responsibilities. We have a city manager, a police chief. Well, right now the city is looking for one, but there's a police chief. There's a police and fire commission. There is city council. So to me, that would be a lot of oversight required. And I think the solution to this issue is getting all entities, all stakeholders involved to oversee our police force, more than enabling or creating a separate entity to come in and do that oversight. So, I mean, as a retired Marine, that's all we do. We hold people accountable. There's oversight from many different perspectives. There's rank structures, just like in the city. There is a structure, the city is structured in such a way that there is a command, there is a chain of command to hold people accountable. So I would not go as far as creating a commission, since there is already one.
Candidate Marchi?
Yes, my principle is going back to the basis, means the basic is the police officer should be a servant to the community. And when I mean the servant, I remember when I was a child, we knew the police officer by the first name. We invited him to have lunch and dinner with us, and that was fine. And we know who the bad people were, and we know how the police was acting. In today's day, in a computer mode, text mode, you can get tased, can get killed, you can get disappeared. That's terrible. And you know, that's because there is a lack of leadership in our city. Our city right now is, I want to say it straight up, is an old boys club mentality. I got an email yesterday from the city manager that she had to hold the horses to choose an inside low rank police officer to be promoted as a chief. When the chief is making $400,000 a year, we should be nationwide to look the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Candidate Howard.
Yes, I'm still unsure about the subpoena power piece. I've been looking into that, but we do need the oversight. One of the parts of the discussion that doesn't come up is the fact that, yes, X amount of taxpayer dollars are going into the police department, but really, that's community money. That's community taxpayer money. So trust has to be developed. The oversight allows that trust. As someone who has been in an industry that required trust, I was fine with ensuring that we had oversight. So, and I come at that saying that I would hope that our police department would want to continue to grow and build trust. While it's great, the work that we've done, diversifying our department, because that's one step, but the other piece is the culture. The culture is how we dictate what's going on in our community. So yes, I would support having that oversight, but that oversight needs to include the entire community, those who are pro-police, those who are frustrated by the police, because our police department is having to deal with the fact that other police departments aren't as far ahead as ours is.
Thank you. Candidate Feller.
Thank you. The police department that we have in Oceanside is far different than the one that we had in the 80s and 90s early. Those were well-intentioned people. We have great intentioned people working for our police department now. The issues that other large cities have, and we're about the 130th largest city in the country, aren't the same as they are for Oceanside. The Oceanside is much different, a much safer city, and it's because our police department has done the right thing. Whether an oversight committee is necessary, I'm probably on the fence on that. As far as the recruitment for a police chief, I think that is the city manager's job. Right now, there is a survey going on through the city manager's office for what they want to see in a police chief. And
Thank you.
That's my comment.
Thank you so much. You guys have been doing a great job. We're about halfway through. So I'm going to give our timer a break, and I'm going to do 2 speed round questions. These are simple yes or no. Now, sometimes I know it's really tough for politicians to say yes or no. So I will give you a third option because I'm feeling kind. You're not going to like the third option either. The third option is you can pass. I will tell you from experience that your constituents really want to hear your yes or no, but you can pass if you choose. So we're going to start with the first one, yes, no, or pass. Do you support the upcoming ballot measure K about term limits? Now that's the one that says elected officials for the city council and mayor are going to be limited to 3 4-year terms. However, you could serve those both as a council person and then as a mayor. So the question is yes or no, do you support the upcoming ballot K measure on term limits? We'll start with candidate, let me go back to my original list, Marchi.
Yes, we need new blood.
We're not going to tolerate this. Now settle down. Candidate Feller.
Yes.
Candidate Rodriguez.
No.
Candidate Garcia.
Yes.
Candidate Howard.
Yes.
Candidate Sanchez.
Yes.
Candidate Chavez.
Yes.
Well done. Thank you all. Let's do another one. Your constituents really want to know how you're going to vote on ballot measures. So this one is yes, no, or pass. Do you support the upcoming ballot measure L on the North River Farms referendum and why? So briefly, this is one that involves rezoning of strict agricultural land into residential. I'm not doing it justice, but your constituents want to know, are you going to vote yes, no, or pass on supporting the upcoming ballot measure L on the North River Farms referendum? Starting in reverse order, candidate Chavez.
No.
Candidate Sanchez.
No.
Candidate Howard.
No.
Candidate Garcia.
No.
Candidate Rodriguez.
Yes.
Candidate Feller.
Yes.
Candidate Marchi.
No.
Thank you all very much. You are a great group to do that with. Thank you. We'll go back to the longer 1-minute questions now that the community has submitted to you, and we'll go back to my random sheet here. The next question is, do you support SOAR, S-O-A-R, requiring a public vote before agricultural, open space, or parkland can be rezoned to any other use, such as housing or commercial in Oceanside? Can we have our first response from candidate Chavez?
I would not support that. And because I think ballot box planning, that's when you put a large issue before the community, a lot of the details are lost. And so something as important as the general plan that we talked about earlier is too important to generalize in a ballot box. It should be an open and transparent process that invites everybody to it. I know people don't like it because sometimes it gets gritty, but that's one of the things why I'm running to be the mayor of Oceanside, because I think in a very transparent, open way, gritty discussions are good for the community. But to go ahead and put something on a ballot box that can be influenced by money from the outside isn't a good thing. So I do not support ballot box planning. Thank you.
Candidate Marchi.
Yeah, I'm not supporting that, but we need to make sure that the farmers, they get the support from the city. We cannot just let them right there and not be able to do their work dealing with pesticides and bringing water for them. So structure is the key element in our city. We got so many houses that are dilapidated from 1940, 1950, and try to get a permit on that is impossible. For that is, I think, one of the major reasons of homelessness. So we need to make our city more efficient and accountable. We're spending way so much money in some places and we don't put any dollar in what it is important. And for the ones that they are in the denial that the revenues after the COVID, they're gonna be the same, we really need to tie the budget, tie the belt. You need a strong person on the helm. You need a person with leadership who knows, who understands zoning, who knows different housing, and who needs traffic and many other parts of the infrastructure that they're so way back abandoned.
Thank you so much. Candidate Feller.
Thank you. The issue is ballot box planning and property rights. It's a total farce to take things to the ballot when people have land and they may or may not be through with it. They want to do something else with it. They're tired of, in this case, farming. It's completely wrong to take away the right of the property owner through something as egregious as ballot box planning.
Thank you. Candidate Garcia?
You know, with everything going on with Measure L and how those things went, how those things transpired, I think voters and myself, from a voter perspective, at first I was inclined to say yes. You know, so just there's not enough transparency in city council for me as a voter, and in my community, which is 1,000 people here, we all talked a lot about this, and we just don't trust. You know, there's not that bridge of trust. And at first I was, yeah, you know, we should take that power away from you know, city council, because they haven't management correctly, transparently. But now, after studying the issue a lot, and you're right, it's not ballot box, you know, a decision. This is a city council function, you know, and there is a process. I'm a process person. There is a development commission. And I think this is where we need to work as city council, is listen to this planning commission and abide by those environmental impact studies, and at the same time protecting property rights. Thank you.
Candidate Howard?
I saw that stop sign.
The key, you talked about it, it's about the planning. And that's why, again, no, I would not support just taking it to the ballot box, because there's so many other moving parts. We have to get our general plan done. The land use element needs to be put in place, because then we know, and then developers know, this is how Oceanside is going to be planned out. This is what Oceanside is planning to do around infrastructure. So when you just take a project out without all of the information, what happens is, regardless of, let's say it passes, now you've actually put the staff in a bind, because you have to redo all the planning. And so what's the point of having a plan if you're not going to use it? So we need to really get the general plan done, so we know what we're going to do, and be forward thinking with environmental information as a part of that, ensuring that we deal with all the pieces. But no, we cannot just send it to the ballot when we need to have our plan together so that we know what we're doing along development.
Candidate Sanchez?
Thank you. Yes, I did support SOAR. It was as a result of the lack of trust. Why? Because it looked like our council members were being bought off. Basically, staff recommended against the project. The Planning Commission recommended against the project. And so basically it was completely against our general plan. We've never had a plan to urbanize and then have urban sprawl on our farms. So yes, I think that it was necessary. And until we have a council and rules and basically a trust built in, I mean, you know, it only takes 3 votes to change the entire general plan. And a lot of money, by the way. So yes, I did support SOAR. I still support SOAR. I think that if it's that kind of a drastic change, then it ought to go on the ballot. And that is not ballot box planning. That, in fact, that is the opposite. That is addressing bad decisions by the council. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, a new question. Do you support?
You didn't ask me that question. You skipped me.
Are you the only one who didn't get asked?
Correct.
I was ready to roll on to another one, but I don't want to shortchange you on that.
Yes,
Thank you.
don't shortchange me. I need to correct some misinformation Esther Sanchez said.
Please respond.
Don't make this personal now.
Awesome. Well, I will. You are speaking. You're not speaking truth, council member. So number one, Oceanside voters clearly voted against SOAR. It is a clear violation of private property rights. There are 3,300 acres of agricultural land that is zoned to allow estate homes, AKA sprawl. Right now in our agricultural area, you can build over 1,350 homes with zero requirement for infrastructure, with zero benefits to our city, only impacts, period. So sprawl is already approved out in South Memorial Hills. We're losing farms, okay? There are private property owners that are up against a 35-year-old general plan. There is so much development that goes on in our city because that 35-year-old plan that has to change zoning, that has to do variances, okay? So this is a decide what's best for preserving agriculture and setting up the adequate infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you for catching me on that error. I did not mean to exclude you by any means. The next question, do you support immediate measures to address climate change and environmental injustices in Oceanside? We'll start with candidate Marchi.
Of course, climate change is based on science and not just because somebody smoked something the night before and argue against. So we need to make sure that our city is in compliance with infrastructure, because all the burden, I'm a contractor, all the burden is passed on to the contractor. The contractor is the one that pays all the bad parts of this. They got CEQA control, SWP, BWP, MPPP, so many Ps that the city, they don't know what to do. So we need to make simple, cut the red tape, be efficient, be accountable. The city has to be managing the contractors and the projects, and in a community, in a joint venture, we cannot left the contractor to do all the tasks. So, and I want to be short. I don't want to be trumping.
Thank
I
you.
take my time. That's fine.
Candidate Feller.
Could you repeat the question? I got
course.
lost in that one.
Of course. Do you support immediate measures to address climate change and environmental injustices in Oceanside?
The Bible says to take care of the place we live, the planet that we have. I agree with that wholly. I'm not sure what the immediate ones would be, but I know I support what our city staff is generally working on, and that would probably meet the exact answer you're looking for.
Candidate Garcia.
A lot of those environmental plans involve traffic, involves city roads, involves water runoff, involves controlled fires. It's one of the most important parts of taking care of where we live. I mean, you notice recently the sun is orange because of all the fires going around due to uncontrolled burns or mismanaged wildfire areas like they do here in Pendleton. That's an example of controlled burns to avoid hazards in the long run. But it is one of the most important parts of in any city planning function to keep its decisions the least amount of environmental impact as possible. And that's my answer.
Thank you. A new question. Explain what you think needs to be done to balance public health and opening the economy in response to COVID. We'll start with candidate Chavez.
I'm really glad you asked me that question. My son's an infectious disease specialist, a doctor, and we talk about this all the time. We have to open up the economy, but you have to open it up with an eye towards science. We know right now that the COVID is spread primarily through the air, and they talk about depending on who you're contacted with, how much of what they call a load, how much exposure you are to the virus. And if you're in a closed area where somebody's where you're exposed, it can have serious consequences. You know, every day I'm updated on Tri-City how many members we have, and we went a week ago from about 11 up to a couple days ago up to about 21. It's here, and so we need to put public policy to ensure that we have safe spaces where people can meet because it's transported by the air. Doesn't mean the economy has to stop. We just use the science so that we can open up our economy.
Candidate Rodriguez.
Great question. I think the best answer to that is common sense. We need to, listen to our public health officials, and we have to work with them to help understand that, it's difficult being in my position as a policymaker, and I'm looking at two business environments, one that they deem as essential and another they deem as non-essential, but yet it's the same environment. And there's small businesses behind those different environments, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of employees that fall underneath those umbrellas. So balance is key, common sense is key. They went way overboard in the beginning, and they backpedaled from a state level onto the county level and started implementing a little bit more common sense. I fully support wearing your mask, social distancing, and sanitary protocols. And I think with balance and working together, we can keep our economy going. Thank you.
Candidate Howard.
Yeah, COVID, until you actually know someone with COVID, I found that a lot of people really just don't take it seriously. The science is clear. We know how it's transmitted. So in order to do this, we actually work with what the scientists are saying. But if we don't build that trust, even if we did open up a bunch of places, people won't necessarily patronize those businesses. So we ensure that our employees are safe. We make sure that the business, because the micro businesses, 20 or less employees, they're going to need that extra support, that PPE, that sanitation. And a lot of our businesses, that's what they need. So we need to ensure that we're following it and model the behavior as leaders, because believe it or not, council members, mayors, people watch what you say and do. So follow the science, ensure that we have the correct equipment, and that's how we move it forward. And then be okay doing what is necessary to keep people safe.
Candidate Sanchez.
The projections are pretty serious, right? I mean, we're heading into a winter, and we're talking about the flu and a lot more deaths as a result of COVID and with the flu. Yes, it has to be science-based, absolutely. And we have been able to work with businesses to have some activity happen outdoors, but that will probably not be able to happen very much in the coming months. So what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to figure out how to ensure the continuity of our small businesses, which have been the backbone of our economy in Oceanside. Having said that, over 76% of our workforce actually travels outside of Oceanside, an average of 27 minutes. So we have this community that already travels out, and hopefully what we could do is work from home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How effective do you think the short-term rental ordinance has been? Are there any changes that you believe should be made? Candidate Garcia.
I think there was a couple of changes made where the city could collect some revenue from the short-term rental type B&B issues. I think that is a step in the right direction, especially over there by the beach area. A lot of people were just kind of making business and not leaving some of that revenue in the city. Regulation was definitely a key part of creating revenue, especially right now. The city has lost an incredible amount of revenue because of COVID. So I think just a regulated environment for short-term rentals is key for the city. And I say not very tight, just regulated to the point where it's just a little piece to bring back to the city and not ruin their business model as well, because we need businesses here to thrive as well.
Thank you. And for your awareness, your bandwidth is constricted and you're getting a little choppy. So if there's anything you can do, I think the audience would appreciate it. The same question to Candidate Howard.
Yes, I've been walking neighborhoods and talking to people about it, and we always talk about the property rights of the individual, but in a neighborhood and you have party houses, it's still, I'm unsure if it's being evaluated and monitored at a level that makes those individuals satisfied. And again, this is anecdotal because it is like 8 or 9 different neighborhoods. I agree we need to limit the short-term rental from a corporate perspective, because basically what you're doing is running a hotel, and there are hotels. That's the business model. For an individual that wants to actually have, you got 1 property, 2 property as ordinance is set up for, I don't have a problem with that so much as I am concerned about having disturbances. Because in some neighborhoods, whether you are in a short-term rental or not, and you're disturbing the neighborhood, it becomes a problem. So we need to begin to make sure that there are good communication with the people who are using these short-term rentals to ensure that we're working together to keep our communities not just safe, but the type of neighborhood you want to live in.
Candidate Chavez.
Yes, I think it definitely needs to be relooked at again. Oceanside is finally coming to its own as far as a tourist community. And with tourism, when you start having people coming in to relax here, they're the same ones dropping the money at the restaurants. We like to see all the new restaurants down there. We like the new wineries popping up. We like the fact that we have craft breweries, but they also come with a lot of burden. And so if I was the mayor, what I would do is I would focus on the partnerships in the area where tourists are coming, with the chamber, with the business communities, and the police, because we don't want to be just come an area that's just drunks are running around, someplace where families can come and enjoy it in a very safe environment and a nice meal. So it does need some work, bottom line, and you need to have partnerships. And as the mayor, I would do that. Thank you.
Candidate Marchi.
Yes, I'm a fiscal conservative, so we need to get the TOT tax to the city, because if there's no revenues, how are we going to sustain the city? So yeah, short-term rental is okay. We don't need to see that is the scary house in the neighborhood, because like Rocky says very well, they're bringing money to restaurants, they're using our transportation, they promote, they bring different cultural values. You know, all the people that are living in a short-term rentals, they're gonna destroy the neighborhood. They're people like you or me or anyone, and we need to get advantage and benefits of that. We don't need to look at that as a bad thing. What the city has to do is have code enforcement being effective in an event of many violations, and should be another body in the city that is ruling and take the license away for the ones that are bad guys. One bad apple cannot ruin all the apples. Thank you.
Do you support the demilitarization of our local police force, including eliminating military weapons and equipment? Candidate Rodriguez.
No.
You've got a whole minute if you want to go for it.
Nope, I'm about saving time. I don't support that. You can move to the next person.
Candidate Sanchez.
I do support the demilitarization of our police department. We have a base next door.
Candidate Feller.
Absolutely not. The police cannot be outgunned by the bad guys. So we have to be ready for anything, but wisely using what they have at a very bare minimum. That's it.
Thank you. Do you support SB 1383, Saving Food from Waste in North County, and its implementation in Oceanside? Candidate Howard.
I am not versed on SB 1383, but what I will say, when it comes to saving food, I worked with a program in LA where a young entrepreneur put together a program where what you are able to do is get the stores and other facilities, and believe it or not, the school district, to have their food, because they make more than they need, and to be able to use that for people who are food insecure. So I do support food insecurity, but I have to look at the details of the program, because in Oceanside, one of the things I'd like to see us do, if I'm mayor, we have a climate where we can do things like farmscaping, where you actually have land, and we have students at Maricosta that will actually, in the horticulture department, who will take care of it. All you pay for is the water, and they're able to bring that food, fresh foods and vegetables, to schools with free, high level of free and reduced lunch. So there are ways to work that area. So I do support us decreasing the waste, because we do, we can do better with our waste, our food.
Thank you. Candidate Marchi.
the waste is something that I really give me stomach aches when I hear the word waste. The city wastes so much money, and some business sometimes they are forced to waste the money, and especially in food because they're so worried about liability. And but sometimes food can be passed on when it's being watched and it's being controlled. That safety, cleanliness are in compliance, and it's very easy to save that money because at the end everybody will be getting a benefit. Very simple. We need to bring things to the simple. Government put their hands in too many things and do everything wrong. So we need to leave the businesses have their own criteria, and of course they have to have a support and a watch by the city. Very simple. Thank you.
Candidate Chavez.
You know, this came up when I was in the California Assembly before. We have a lot of greenhouse gas emissions from wasting food, and it needs to be addressed. The goals are rather expansive for this bill, you know, but it's an aspirational thing that we should be looking at, because to take waste, food waste, and just to discard it, causing a problem to the environment is not beneficial to the state or any communities. And what 1383 tries to do is it changes a culture of the state at the lowest level, and that's in your communities. And so you're trying to work with businesses to do that. There are some details when you talk to restaurants. There's some problems on moving it and how cost effective it is. And I would focus on that as the mayor. But as far as a mayor and leading to deal with this, I'd be willing to take it on. Thank you.
Thank you. And you won't believe it, but that brings us to our last question for the evening. Affordable housing gets a lot of lip service, but Oceanside continues to allow developers to pay in lieu of fees instead of actually building needed low-cost housing. Will you commit to eliminating these in lieu of fees and actually require this needed housing to get built? Candidate Rodriguez.
Thank you. I've moved on several policy items in my short tenure as an elected council member, one of which is to fix that broken model, to fix that broken system. I think we've lost out on hundreds of units over the last 2 decades because of the lack of leadership and direction to city staff in creating an environment for the private sector to actually build these units. The private sector is a business. They're going to go towards saving cost and making money. We need to create incentives and opportunity, and we need to create a plan that clearly shows what we're looking for and what we're after. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And that's exactly what we're moving on as a council. We've moved to streamlined development entitlement pathway. We've moved on making modifications to our inclusionary housing ordinance, which gives developers more options and incentives to actually start building. But we're still about 3 years away through our general plan update before developers will really start building. Thank you.
Candidate Garcia.
You know, I would support the removal of the fees in new further construction of affordable housing. But the question is, how much is affordable housing cost to the person, to the regular resident? What is affordable housing? Is it $100,000? Is it a $200,000 condo? What is it? And before we even get to all that, where will we put them, and how do we study, or how do we know that we have the correct infrastructure to support the additional people living wherever that housing complex will be put in place? Are the roads wide enough? You know, is there a train station? Is there a bus station nearby, or a transportation complex? Those are all the things that I think we need to talk about first before talking about adding more homes to Oceanside. They're important, and we should add more homes. Like I said, there's a lack. However, we need to take a step back first and look at the city's infrastructure to see if it fits in the general plan, and if not, adapt it and incorporate it into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Feller.
Thank you. We can't sit around and wait for anything. And if I know builders and they're affordable, they're market rate, the whole process needs to be simplified to eliminate the in lieu. If we can eliminate the in lieu, I think we get them to build the affordable. We just have to make the process work for them to do that. It's, as Councilmember Rodriguez said, they want to build. That's what they do, and I think their efforts will be rewarded, and the people that need housing will get it if we streamline the process and make the areas available near transit.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez?
Thank you for the question. We have tried doing all kinds of incentives, and up until last week, or was it a couple of weeks ago, it just hasn't worked. All we're getting is higher density, but no affordable housing. I mean, I asked that question, why aren't any of these units affordable? So I don't think it has to do with making more incentives. I think it has, in terms of, you know, for the developer, I think what has to happen is that the in lieu fee needs to get higher so that it's high enough that they're going to want to build. So get rid of it right away. No, I think it would have to be a transition, but certainly raise them. Thank you.
All right. I know that there are so many more questions that people have for their candidates and for their ballot measures. We strongly encourage everyone to go to the nonpartisan website, votersedge.org. It's under my name banner there. They also track campaign spending, so you can see who's investing money for or against a proposition or ballot measure and learn about more on your local candidates. If you want more information about upcoming forums and candidates and ballot measures, you can always go to the League's website. It's mylwr.org/California/North County, San Diego. But if you just get to mylwv, you'll get to the right place. The members of the League of Women Voters do the hands-on work to empower voters and defend democracy. If you would like to join us, and we welcome both men and women, we would love to have you come along with us on this journey to make democracy work for everyone. It's easy to join. You can do so on the website. We'd also love to have you follow us on social media. I've got some key dates. Election Day, if anyone isn't sure, is November 3rd. The deadline to register to vote is October 19th. If you've moved, changed your name, or wish to change your party affiliation since the last time you voted, you'll need to re-register. You can do that at sdvote.com. Again, sdvote.com. That takes you right to the San Diego Registrar of Voters website. You can also track your ballot there, so it's a great resource to have. You can be sure that your ballot's been mailed, received, and counted. Now it's time for the candidates to make their closing statements. We're going to do it in reverse order, the opening statements, and we're going to give them 90 seconds to complete their comments. Let's begin with the closing comments. The first opportunity goes to candidate Chavez.
Well, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this. I agree with you. This is a great job you're doing to inform the voters. I'd like to touch on a couple of the items I didn't get to address, and I'll try to be quick with these because I only have a few seconds. The general plan, redoing the general plan, we have a great opportunity that we now in the city of Oceanside, we have districts. And if I become the mayor, what I would do is I would go to each of the council members in their districts and ask them to undertake it upon themselves to show a leadership role and define their areas. Because clearly District 1 is different than District 4. And the best person to deal with that is a council member from that district. And so as the mayor, I would make sure that they had the resources to do that. Now, the other thing I'd like to touch on about the military or the police, you know, I think I'm the one here that serves the longest in the military, 28 years. And as a Marine colonel, I can tell you when I did ride-alongs with the police, they have a totally different mission than we have. I actually have a bill that I supported up in Sacramento this last session that the military uniform would not be used by police because police have a special role in the community to ensure we're safe. And the last thing is the water transfer. We need to do that. So my name is Rocky Chavez. I've been your council member, your state assembly member, your secretary of veteran affairs, and actually the coach at El Camino High School wrestling team. I'd be honored to receive your support. Please vote for Rocky Chavez for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Chavez. Sorry, candidate Sanchez. Apologies.
They always do that, by the way, Sanchez Chavez.
Thank you. My name is Councilmember Esther Sanchez, and I am so excited about running to be our next mayor in Oceanside. Besides being the first woman in 132 years, I have the background. I have the planning background. I have the legal background, and the background that I'm most proud of, and that is working within our community. Every single time I've been asked to work on an issue, I am down there and I am making sure that we are able to resolve. So part of being a lawyer was basically to try to resolve problems in the courtroom, and when you couldn't, then you go to trial. Well, this is the same kind of a thing. The biggest issue that is facing us, and this is very, very critical time for us, is the fact that over 76% of our workforce goes outside of Oceanside. We need to change that. We need to bring jobs to Oceanside. We need to become more economically and environmentally sustainable. You know, Oceansiders should not have to travel so far to go to their work, and they should be livable wage jobs. Also, our environment, we've got to do something about this immediately. I'm sorry I didn't get that question, because we have to strengthen our climate action plan. We need to implement it immediately. We need to get into our CCE and join other cities and making sure that we do this. I mean, SDG&E is getting out of that business, so we need to be doing this now. And we need to be mindful that our community, we lack fields. We have this wonderful resource called El Corazon, and we need to do that. My name is Esther Sanchez. I hope to be the next mayor of Oceanside, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Candidate Howard.
Yes, thank you so much for the work that you are doing with the League of Women Voters. I remember when I first got to Oceanside and working with you on this very thing, candidate forums. They weren't recorded in this fashion at the time. I want to just speak to the voters and let them know that what we need right now, again, is servant leadership. Leaders that are willing to take on the big problems, like our plans, including developing and growing our climate action plan, but our actual general plan needs the attention of the council and each one of the members, but bringing in the community. We don't, in the community, I'm out there asking questions and people really feel like they want to be communicated with more. And so my challenge is that we do that. I am uniquely positioned because I actually know that in order for us to do this, it's going to require us to work together. Our communication has to get better. And in doing that, we have to be willing to take the experience I have of working with corporations and yet working with community organizations, working with the military and working with the education community. Pulling those pieces together is how we put the plans on paper and implementing them so that we can get better. Before I finish, again, I want to remind everyone, we have 2 weeks for the census. Please, everyone in your community, because that brings funds to our community. And don't forget, Rob Howard, candidate for Oceanside Mayor. And I thank you, League of Women Voters, for your efforts in this electoral process.
Candidate Garcia.
Sorry. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for having us here. I appreciate it. It's been an honor. So my name is Fernando Garcia. I want to be your next mayor. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Mexico, and I'm a living proof that an immigrant can come, to the United States and become successful and do whatever, a person can do as long as you work hard. And, I'm a living proof. Here I am running for mayor, an immigrant running for mayor. I mean, I think it's really, really cool. So the things I really want to work on in the city is homelessness. Homelessness is, we have 1,500 homeless in the Tri-City area, Carlsbad, Oceanside Vista, and they're all migratory. And I want to work in developing solutions, with reorganizing the outreach teams and trying to get individual contact with the homeless. And then the other thing I want to work on is on community policing. I think the city is the face. I mean, police officers are the face of the city. They are the contact of the city with its citizens. So I want to work on creating bridges of trust between the community and the police. I want to create, divide police into sectors. They already do that, and I think they need to be used in that matter more efficiently to allocate police to their particular areas of patrolling, so they could start doing more foot patrolling and getting to know the community that they serve. Fernando Garcia for mayor. Thank you.
Candidate Rodriguez.
Thank you very, very much. I've learned a lot these last couple of years and through the last campaign season and interacting with voters. And I'm talking to at least 150, 200 voters a week now. And I think the biggest theme above and beyond homelessness, traffic, rent control, there's all these police dynamics, is Oceanside desperately wants responsive government. When I first got elected, I held a town hall, and over 250 residents came to that town hall. And they were just so blown away that an elected official in Oceanside wants to interact in the trenches with the community to get to work and get things done. So what I'm going to bring to the table above and beyond, I believe, my colleagues is I'm a worker, and you're going to find less talk, more action. And I'm going to work with you, and I can also work with my colleagues to effectively get things done. I've moved on over 17 council agenda items and motions as sitting on the dais. And I've been very, very successful in ushering many of those forward into policy that not only help our small businesses, not only help the development community, but help communities of color, help the diversity in our community, and help our environment. So I am so excited to be running, and please reach out to me. Visit my website, www.oceansidematters.com. Thank you.
Candidate Feller.
Thank you, League, for your efforts. I would like to, we missed the water question, and tomorrow we are signing a deal with the federal government for our pure water, which increases our water availability in the next several years. I've spent 33 years meeting people, thousands and thousands of people that actually are at the grassroots level. I'm not a flamboyant guy. I just feel like I'm spending a lot of time with these people and have for many years. Oceanside is a great place to live, work, worship, and play. Oceanside, many of you may not know that almost every part of Oceanside, except maybe the sand, was a farm or a ranch. And a couple of you even live on a ranch, the Zanheiser Ranch in Morro Hills. All of those areas were built the same way that we hope to build some other homes on personal property that maybe changes the way Oceanside looks. The general plan needs the work. We have to open the roads that were planned. Melrose was supposed to go from the back gate all the way to South Carlsbad. We are not very close on that. Oceanside is a great place.
You're out of time. Do you want to put your last plug in there on your website or your request to vote?
jackfeller.com.
Thank you. Candidate Marchi.
Yes, I would like to be called Fabio because that brings more connection to the people. I'm not going to be an honorable council member because that creates distance. I'm just a simple guy trying to make the city better because right now is not going to work out for all of us. I want to add something about the in lieu fees. I'm also straightforward. The in lieu fee right now is a scam and it's an extortion. That's why builders, they cannot build. I'm a builder and I experienced that in my own. I have to thank the league and especially you, Elizabeth. You did a fantastic job as a moderator. And but I have to say that don't even think to contribute to my campaign because you cannot buy me. I'm not for sale. I'm for the citizens. I'm a guy that I grew up in Argentina under dictatorship. And the sole in my shoes, we have to put cardboards. And today, I'm very good, so I'm paying back to my community. I'm gonna be a public servant. My office is gonna be an open doors, and there's not gonna be any more high-paid ranking officials that make 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 when people, they are homeless. We got 1,400 sites where homeless. We're spending 60 million in police, 30 million in fire, and there's no way to allocate better money. I think somebody needs to go back to the basics of arithmetic. 1 + 1 is always 2. Room additions and ADUs is a must. We did that in 1-day permit.
You're out of time, but I'll give you the same courtesy. Would you like to identify your website?
Just vote Fabio. You will see my signs. By the way, somebody's stealing my signs. Thank you. Vote Fabio. That's it.
All right. Let me say on behalf of the League of Women Voters from North County, San Diego, and from the Oceanside Coastal Neighbors Association, a heartfelt thank you to all the candidates. It is gracious of you to be here with us tonight. Just running for office is an incredible commitment, and it takes bravery. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Also, thank you to the audience and the community that's joining us either tonight or virtually in the future. We're so glad you care about learning about your candidates and helping bring democracy to action. Remember, it's really easy, safe, and secure to vote by mail. We encourage you not to just come out and vote yourself, but to also get your friends and neighbors to vote as well. If you're watching this after that October 19th deadline, when I said you've got to get your voter registration in, don't panic. Starting October 31st, you can go down to the registrar's office and file a provisional ballot. So please do that. You have up until 8 p.m. on November 3rd to get that ballot in. From the League of Women Voters and from the OCNA, thank you all and have a lovely evening. Good night.
Thank you for having us.